Go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Rachel?
Here.
Katie?
Here.
Sarah?
Here.
Doug? Lori?
Here.
Gary? Jack?
Here. All right, if everyone will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a moment of silence for armed services personnel. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any items to be added or changed to the agenda? We have no correspondence or commendations or recognitions. Actually, I'm sorry, we do have a recognition acknowledgement. This month is Administration Appreciation Month, and Mr. Pearson.
Yeah, I've always appreciated our administrators, as all our staff, and especially coming back, because it's, you folks have things in place and carry a lot of weight of the district, and certainly have been very supportive in making sure the ship continues to head in the right direction. So, district relies heavy on them. We have a highly skilled group of administrators that I'm proud and pleased to work with, and thankful to be back and working with these folks. So, I'm thankful for you every day, but I know the board wants to recognize you tonight. So how do we want to call them up here, Cindy?
If all of our administrators could come up, and we have a small gift for you, and to say thank you, and to let you guys know the board appreciates you all very much, new and old.
And directors, so that's directors, principals.
Well done.
I like working here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Celeste. Thank you for staying.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
Mr. Keck, thank you. Thank you, Dale. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Bring in your snacks. Not yet. I will. Don't worry. It'll come. Thank you. Appreciate
Vic, thank you.
Thank you so much.
We heard we're getting a treat next month that you're going to feed us. Thank you, baby.
Thank you, sir. Thanks. Thank you. Keeping my kid on the straight and narrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
Appreciate it, Todd. Thank you.
Todd, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd, for everything you do.
And thank you to all of our administrators. I think probably you get more mad people coming to you than you do getting the appreciation. So it's well earned. So thank you very much. So now we'll move on to building updates. Mr. Keck, it's all you.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to pull over here so I can kind of see what's going on. All right, give me a second. I don't remember how to do this. So, good evening. Tonight I'm going to present district assessment data from last school year, so the 24-25 school year. We're doing it earlier. Last year I think we did it around February. This year we're doing October, which I prefer. This year's report is going to be a little bit different than last year, if you remember, because one of the data companies that we've used, I get them a little bit confused, IDEX, Munetrics, one bought the other out. And I talked to that group a couple of weeks ago to see if I can get the same comparison data that we've had in the past where it compares us to similar schools demographically. I was not able to get that report for tonight. They have new people in place and they're still figuring out their systems. My plan is to get that so that we do have that comparison data with like districts. So when I get that, I will certainly share that out. So I'm proud to present our data tonight. There are areas that will look really good on a graph, because when we look at numbers and we see high numbers on graphs, they look really well. There's other areas that don't look as well, and we know that we have areas that we can improve on, but I've been saying this a long time, and I truly believe it, that educating a student, in the power of educating a student cannot be measured in one day. It is a process that we take pride in, of educating our students from kindergarten, well, preschool, all the way till they graduate. And I want us to keep that in mind. We get kids in from our community that may or may not be as prepared as other kids, and it takes time to figure out where they're at, what makes them click, how to differentiate, and the goal is by the time they leave Gaylord Community Schools, they're contributing to society, whether that's college, trade school, or staying local. So I think this data is reflective of that, and again, we certainly have areas to be proud of, and we have other areas that we will continue to work on. So if you have questions as we move through, please stop me and ask. So this is, I did this for the first time this year, and then I break it down as we go through, but this is our M-STEP, our PSAT, which is tested in 8th, 9th, and 10th grade, and then our SAT, advanced and proficient levels. I'll kind of explain the graph as we go through that you can take a look at it. So we'll start all the way on the left with 3rd grade. Gaylord Community Schools is in the yellow. The gray color is the state average, and the light blue color is the ISD average. This is the best comparative data I could pull right now. As you can see in 3rd grade, 34% of our 3rd graders were proficient or advanced in ELA last year, as compared to 39% at the state level and 35% at the ISD level. I'm not going to go through each grade level. We can see as we're looking at the graphs. We see about 6th grade, we see a change, and this is not new to us. We typically see around 6th grade, after students have had 4 or 5 years of our intervention and RTI process, we tend to see some acceleration in that 6th grade level. 6th grade, so 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade is M-STEP, which is the state assessment. When we hit 8th grade, we turn into PSAT. 8th, 9th, 10th grade is PSAT, and 11th grade is that SAT. So as you can see, around 6th grade, we start making that increase. And that's not new data to us. I will say, us being below state average in 3rd, 4th, and 5th is fairly new to us, and we're trying to figure out what's going on there, and we are working hard to get those to be improved. Any questions from our board on this? So again, I highlight our 8th grade PSAT, which is the first time they're taking a national level test. 77% of our students are proficient in reading. Math, again, the scales of the graph, that's a 50-point scale between a 25 and 50. You'll see a trend again on our 3rd and 4th and 5th grade. We are below state average in those grade levels, but above the ISD average in the others. And then again, we see that change in 6th grade, where we are accelerating through. Again, it takes time for us when we get our students in kindergarten to figure out where they're at, what makes them click, and how we can differentiate their instruction. Same thing here, that 8th grade is when they reach that PSAT, so it's a different test. It's not the state test, that is a national test. Questions there from our board?
Dennis, how long does it take for them to take the test? Is it like a 2-day thing? Is it a 1-day thing? Is it a week long?
Yeah, there's a calendar that we spread it out. It typically takes, by the time we start to the time we get to retakes, it could take up to 3 weeks for these students to complete the testing. And we're talking multiple hours per day of testing. It's very rigorous, and we try to build up kids' stamina and things like that to take these tests, because it's a lot of work.
Does the state give us leeway for absences, or is there a deadline that it has to be completed by?
There is a deadline, and I'm going to talk about it here in a little bit. If you remember, last year after the ice storm, the superintendents in northern Michigan got together to try to excuse the test altogether, because it happened, the testing was scheduled to begin right after the ice storm, and our students have been out for 10 consecutive days. And so the superintendents got together and tried to just excuse the test for last year. The state would not do that, so we asked for an extension. The first response was, no, we're not gonna give an extension. And then about a week later, they sent, I think there was 4 or 5 representatives from the legislature plus the Department of Ed. We sat in this room. We took them on a tour, we took them on a drive, and they said, oh my gosh, you're right. And they did end up giving us, I think they gave us a 2-week extension.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
I might be jumping ahead or off track a little bit, but how is this, like, NWEA is a better, like, snapshot of what's going on?
Sure.
Is there a way to track, like, the NWA, like, compare it to this?
Yep, so there's 2 different measurements. This is a summative assessment. Students learn, and at the end they take a test and it gives a final proficiency level. NWA is a growth measurement. So it takes a baseline. For example, we're just wrapping up testing across the district this past week. We have a baseline of where they're at, and then NWA measures how much did they grow between now and then in the spring when we retest them.
So essentially how fast they learn,
Right.
or how much they
Not
learn?
how fast, but it'll give it's called a RIT score. It'll say the national norm of a, let's say, 3rd grader is this score at this time. And then it measures how much they grew by the end of the year. So how much did they learn towards the end of the year? So it's kind of 2 different ways to measure student achievement.
So if you take, like, 3rd grade, for example, ELA, those kids taking NWA, there's no way to compare, like, the proficiency between that and MSTEP?
So there's what's called a linking study it's a predictor. I'm not 100% accurate or confident how accurate it is. I think it's within typically 3 to 5%. It will say if a student is at this RIT score or this level on NWA at this time, they have data, analytics will say they'll probably be at this part on the MSTEP or PSAT, and that's one of the data points that we look at as a district. We take that NWA data and we say, okay, linking study says kids are gonna be here. Let's identify those students and what they need support in before they take the summative assessment.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, this was 7 or 8 years ago, state superintendent was here for a couple days, I think, and he was talking about just going NWA overall, because we've talked about the assessments. There's a lot of assessments of kids right now. Okay, so this is math. I'll move on. Science, I do not have a reference comparison for the ISD, but I do have the state. So again, we are the yellow. And science is tested only in 5th and 8th grade. So in 5th grade this year, we were 37% proficient in advanced, and the state was 40. And then in 8th grade, we were 54 compared to 41. Social studies. This data doesn't surprise me because the social studies test is essentially a reading test, and it's a challenge. And again, this is only tested in 5th and 8th grade. So our 5th graders, they're testing heavy, math, ELA, science, and social studies, and it takes about a month to get through all those tests for all those students. And again, I do not have ISD reference to compare on this. So let's dig a little bit more into PSAT and SAT. So the keywords for me here is meets College Board grade level benchmark. This is what PSAT and SAT does is it measures students' readiness to attend university or college. I've already shown you this data, I just wanted to separate it a little bit. But as you can see, 8, 9, and 10 is PSAT. Majority of our students, according to SAT and the College Board, are ready for college level work. And again, I focus on this because when we talk about the progression of learning, when our students are in high school and are ready to leave, if 61% of them are college ready according to the College Board in 11th grade, I'd say that's pretty good. That's pretty good data. Again, do not have ISD comparative data for this. And then this is math. Any questions about those numbers?
Do you, like, I'm looking at this graph and I'm remembering last year's. Do you have one coming up where it's like the eighth graders, this is where they were last year and this is our ninth graders this year and like?
I didn't put that together yet because typically
Okay.
I get that through the metrics. That's a great question. As soon as I get that stuff, I can put that together. And I think what you're referencing to is that we call it cohort data.
Yeah,
Where was our third graders at this time and where are they now as fourth graders?
Yeah.
Looking in and diving that data, I can tell you that we have growth across the board.
okay,
Yep, those cohorts are growing and I can provide that to you.
okay.
Yeah, it's a good question. This is overall SAT data. So again, the yellow is Gaylord, the gray is the state of Michigan, and the light blue is the ISD. And remember, the ISD is 3 counties: Sheboygan, Otsego, and Presqu'île, all the students there. So again, we continue to outperform. You could see a downward trend, not only in Gaylord, but also across the state and the ISD. So this is the overall combined ELA and math scores of the SAT that is taken in 11th grade. Composite score. Any questions on that? Okay. So now we get to the awards, and I talked about them this year. US News and World Reports does their rankings for high schools, middle schools, elementaries. I'll tell you right now, all 5 of our buildings are identified again, and I have the percentages and the rankings of where we're at. For high schools, it's College Readiness Index, assessment proficiency, state assessment performance, graduation rate. They also take into account how many AP courses do we offer, early college, dual enrollment, those types of things. So we got news of this a couple of weeks ago. Keep in mind, there's 25,000 public high schools in the 50 states, including the District of Columbia across the country. So Gaylord High School on a national ranking was ranked 5,488, which puts us in the top 22% across the country based on all of those factors. And again, that includes that national test, the SAT and PSAT, that every high school in the United States provides. And then in the state, we were ranked number 182 out of 1,163 public high schools, which puts us in the top 15% there. So we are, Gaylord High School is an award school again, so congratulations to the high school. Middle school and elementary rankings are a little bit different because they don't offer AP and they don't offer dual enrollment in early college. They base their rankings on socioeconomic factors and demographics. So they do a data analysis of the demographics of our students, our community, and compare that to the rest of the country and the state and where our students perform there. Gaylord Middle School and Gaylord Intermediate School is considered a middle school because it has 6th grade included. But Gaylord Middle School is in the top 6%. Was ranked 125 out of 1,998 middle schools in the state of Michigan. They do not provide a national ranking for middle schools. And Gaylord Intermediate School was ranked 148 out of that same group, which is top 7%. So middle school and intermediate are both award schools again this year. Any questions on that?
So actually, those 2 schools in that, they're competing against each other.
Yep, they're in the
Essentially.
same data. They're in the same data bucket, I guess you could say. Elementary, again, it's the same thing. They don't have AP or any of that, so it's comparing the demographics of the students and the families in those schools. There's a lot of elementary schools in the state of public elementary schools in the state of Michigan. There's 2,633 of them. South Maple is ranked number 311, and North Iowa is ranked number 391, which top 11% and top 14%. So both of those buildings are also award schools this year, according to US News World Ranking. So congratulations to all the buildings. They're working very hard. So in summary, in ELA, Gaylord Community Schools above state average in 6 of 9 grade levels. Obviously, we want to see that in 9 of 9, and is above the ISD average in 7 of 9. In the mathematics, again, we're above in 6 of 9 grade levels and 8 of 9 grade levels in the ISD, and all 5 of our buildings, again, are award schools. So that's a summary. Action steps. What do we do? So the data looks great, but there's data, there's things that we have to work on. So this is happening in all our buildings. We're utilizing the district solving driver to analyze data at building department levels and create plans for improvement. We're continuing to develop skills in our new ELA and math curriculum at the elementary levels. We're utilizing art and seminar time to support struggling and advanced students, and we're implementing John Hattie's engagement strategies daily. I got more. Don't leave. I don't know why that one's there. This is the one I want. Let me go down and show you just some other data that we're talking about. Kind of let you know what we're kind of zeroing in on here. So I don't know if you could see this or not, but I wanted to point this out because one of our strategies in our strategic plan, and we talked about this last month, is attendance and our partnerships there. So to put this in perspective, and again, I'm not making excuses, none of us in this room would make excuses. We're trying to target specific areas that we can help to improve student achievement in our overall community. Last school year we had 15 snow days and 10 ice days. So 100% of our students missed 25 days of school last year, which is over a month of school, instructional time. On top of that, here's what this graph will show, and I know it's a little difficult to see. But we did a data, we looked at some data. In grades 3 through 8, 50% of our kids missed an additional 10 days of instruction.
You said 50?
50%.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. And to drill down even farther, we looked at their performance on some of these assessments. You can see in this yellow, I'll just kind of show it to you. This 50 shows 50% of students 3rd through 8th miss additional 10 days. Of those 50%, this number right here in this column, this first column and the yellow, I guess I'll point here, this column here, of those 50% of those students, which I can tell you was 640 kids in grades 3 through 8 missed more than 10 days of school. About 62% of them were not proficient on the MSTEP or PSAT in ELA. And this is math, and it's the same thing, about 62%. So, again, not making excuses. This is just data when you're trying to figure out how to target things. Those are concerning numbers. Let me go to the next slide. %29% of our students miss more than 15 days of school.
15 additional days.
15
In addition to
additional.
the 25.
Mhm. So that's 40 days of school. So we're at 29% of our students in grades 3 through 8 missed 40 days of school last year. 363, that's the total, that's the actual number. And out of those students, 65% of them were not proficient. So the importance of kids coming to school, 40 days is 2 months of lost instructional time. That's a lot. So we're targeting that. How do we communicate with families? And I know that we put some things out this fall about attendance and some new expectations for parents and families, and we got some kickback on social media, but that's why. We have to get these kids in school as much as possible. It's hard to educate kids when they miss 2 months of instruction. So, any questions about that?
Do we have students that don't complete the M-STEPs?
No, we do everything we can to make sure that they get it completed. We
Okay.
call and get them in and say, hey, we gotta get this done, and then we sit with them and make sure they get it done so that we have that data moving forward.
Does that impact us negatively if we were to have one? Does that count as a
Yep.
0 against us, or?
So we go back to that US World News and Report, that's a data piece, and we get it on our school report card as number of kids that complete the assessments. So if we have a high percentage of kids that are not completing it, we get dinged on that at the state level.
Okay.
This isn't 95, anything under 95% gives you a negative mark on your report card, I believe. You have some-
I think it's higher than that. I think it's like 98%.
Okay.
Yeah, we get dinged. So we don't try to hide kids.
Sure.
We try to make sure every single kid gives us some data. Again, I have a hard time with all the work that we do as educators, putting everything on 1 day or 2 days of testing in the spring, you know, we want that data because we want to help that student be successful.
So we're getting close to 8 weeks in. Where are we at? How are we doing on attendance this year so far? Do we know?
I have not ran that report
Okay,
yet.
I'm
That's a
just
great
curious.
question. No, that's a great question. I know we did count day stuff last week, and that was kind of the focus there, so.
Okay.
Are we still getting, I know I got a couple of questions, grief about the attendance and crackdown on it, and some parents were, is everybody kind of,
I think so.
It's pretty smoothed out.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah, I think so. But Sarah, back to your question, is it working?
Yeah.
That's the, you know,
Yeah,
are we still
are we
seeing?
getting better attendance? I know last year, one of the elementary teachers, I think maybe it was the first day back after the ice room, they had 100% attendance or something. It was like
Yeah.
a huge deal.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
enough of these kids, get back to school.
like first day after summer break.
Any other?
I know you can't ask families why their kids aren't coming, but is there any, like, what, is it they're sick or they're?
So we're doing that. We've always been able to ask, like, what's the reason? You know, sick or vacation, but that's part of what we did this fall is say, well, if they're sick, we need to have some documentation of that. Okay, so back to school improvement. This is what we're focusing on at the district level, and then each building is kind of trickling down. We're basing a lot of our work on John Hattie now, who, I don't know if you well know this or not, but John Hattie is kind of he's the guy in education. He's world famous. He's actually coming to Gaylord on November 3rd to do a PD for our district, so we're pretty excited about that. We're pretty darn lucky because he's coming all the way from Australia. But we're really diving into his work on student engagement and things, and one of his school improvement models asks these questions: where are we going? And we're getting back into, you know, are we aware of what the state standards are, curriculum, is it aligned, do we have assessments? Where are we now? We're looking at our formative and summative data and analyzing that and making decisions on how do we move learning forward. We're developing a Gaylord Schools ecosystem map, managing, solving, and dissolving problems, and then leading those problems, and attendance is one of them. We are addressing the attendance, new policy, communities and schools. We have some new RTI, which is response to intervention around the district, specifically at the high school at ARC, which I'm getting a ton of good feedback on that from kids saying, this is really helpful. I've got a place where I can go and get some extra help. We have seminar time at the middle school, and then we have our title and at-risk interventions, K-6. High dose tutoring and mentoring. The state budget did come out last week, we know that. I was able to take a look in there. There's not a line item for tutoring and mentoring. So it's a program that I do believe in. I think we all do to give kids extra support. So when Joe and I have the time in the next week or so, we're going to sit down and see if we can't find funds to continue those programs to help those kids. Because I do know with the mentoring specifically, we were able to increase our graduation rate significantly over the past few years. We've really helped a lot of kids through that. We want to continue to do that. And then professional development, what are we doing? We're working with John Hattie in visible learning. We're researching effect size with an emphasis in student engagement. Again, engaging students will help them want to be here in school and not be at home and tell Mom, I don't feel good, I don't want to go. If they're engaged at school and part of that process, they'll want to be here. So we're diving into that. We're still working with Curriculum and Associates on our iReady Math and magnetic reading with training and support. They actually had some training on that today. We are partnered with the University of Delaware to support our bookworms, reading curriculum in K-3, and then as always, we still keep an emphasis on school safety, and we had a meeting about that today, and we have a professional development January 19th to talk about and improve our school safety systems.
So now, Mr. Hattie's coming in, how long, he'll be just 1 day he'll be here?
Yep.
And will he, or is he gonna give you an assessment on all of our, I don't know, data programs and tell you you need to improve here or
He
there?
won't specifically, so he's kind of a bonus. We've been working with his group for the past 2 years, year and a half I'd say, and he has consultants that have come in and started the conversation on effect sizes and visible learning. He is the he's kind of like, oh my gosh, we got John Hattie coming to Gaylord to kind of solidify what his research is, what he's doing, and motivate us through all that.
But his organization
Correct.
is evaluating us.
His consultant, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And then we're implementing in our school improvement. I can tell you, Mr. Byram, it was a great idea this fall. We had a professional development on engaging students. Mr. Byram was able to go and develop a crosswalk that attaches directly to teacher and administrative evaluations, where that compares so that when we do go into classrooms, we can say, hey, our focus this year is on student engagement. Here's where it's at in your evaluation, our evaluation, how are we doing on that? So that's a way that we're checking to make sure that we're following those processes and systems. So that's all. Any other questions?
No, there's a lot.
It's a lot of information to digest, so
Right.
I'm sure I will have some questions,
Yep.
but give me a few days.
Fair enough.
I'll reach
You
out.
know the process. Just call us and we can set up a meeting.
Okay, sounds good,
Okay. All right, thank you.
thank you.
Do we have those slides in our board books? I didn't see them in there.
No, I can add them.
Yeah, I'll get
Thank
to
you,
Yep.
thank you,
Yeah, I can add them too.
Sorry
I
about
have
that.
afterwards.
thanks.
Yep, no problem.
Okay.
Thanks, Dennis.
You can keep this up too. Parker's got some stuff.
All right, next up is preschool and Carla.
Of course, lots of learning and playing, learning through playing, going on in preschool with lots of busybodies there, having a lot of fun and as they learn. Last week, we were excited to have Todd Troxel and one of our preschool dads, Brandon Wynotsky, come and do a fire safety presentation to all the preschoolers. Of course, they loved it. They brought one of the big fire trucks and one of the smaller ones, and the kids got to go through that, and that was a lot of fun. So that was great. This coming week, we have our fall family fun night where we invite all of our preschool parents to come, and we have a parent advisory meeting where we go through some information that they need to know, and then afterwards, the children get to paint pumpkins and have some snacks and everything. That's always a highlight for us in preschool in the fall. So those are some of the things going on right now in preschool.
Thank you. Diane?
I like this over here. This is nice.
Which one do you want up first?
Can you wait one hot second? Okay, so kind of to piggyback on what Dennis was saying, you know, recognizing the things that we need to work more diligently with, seeing improvement in, you know, how do we keep learning moving forward? And at the K-3 level, one of the biggest things is finding where the students truly are at academically. So this year and last year, we really got focused on screening every student with a specific phonics screener to find out where their deficit skills are, finding out where specific skills are, like, is it a consonant vowel consonant problem? Do they understand where their short vowels, what their short vowels are? Is it an R-controlled vowel issue? And then taking that knowledge and then specifically placing in that student in a targeted skills group that will meet their individualized needs. So that student would get put in that targeted skill group. They would work with a qualified professional specifically on those skills to grow those skills. Then every 2 weeks, those students' progress would be monitored to see if they're making progress. And can that student then advance to the next skill level to continue to build skills to fill those gaps so that we can see more growth in our achievement. That is for every student in our building. It will target students who are at the lowest level of phonemic awareness and phonics skills, all the way up to students who need more enrichment skills, where they're targeting more vocabulary-rich content, or they're doing more hands-on exploring with maybe more project-based learning. So that's across every grade level and for every student, and it's monitored and tracked religiously bi-weekly to make sure that we are meeting their needs. If we're not meeting their needs, then we need to change what we're doing and change the intervention with the students so that they can progress. And that's true for both reading and math. So at the K-3 level, that's how we're trying to target focus our skills and our staff to help students continue the learning. Any questions about that? Okay, cue it, Dennis. So one of the things that we all have been talking about pretty heavily is how can you make that any bigger?
I'm working on it.
She's excited.
Yeah, I know, this is good stuff. And so one of the things that we, of course, are continuing to talk about at school improvement is attendance. So one of our school improvement strategies was, how can we get kindergartners through third graders to get excited about coming to school? Because for a lot of them, attendance is more of a parent problem than a student problem. Parents don't get them to school. So how can we get kids to want to come to school? Part of that is engaging students, but the other part is celebrating that they're here. So one of the things the school improvement team came up with is every day your classroom has perfect attendance, you put a gold star on the outside of your door. So if you look at these classrooms, each day that every student in their classroom was present, they dated the star and put it on the outside of the door. So this is visible building wide. These happen to be grade level pods, so they do get a little sassy about why do they have more stars than we do, so it's creating some camaraderie within the classrooms. And then after, if you have complete attendance for the day, the teacher in the class finds a way to quickly celebrate that everyone is here. It can be students don't have to wear shoes today, sit by a friend for class, and cue the next one. This class decided that, thanks guys, that their reward for perfect attendance was to make their teacher wear a clown nose all day. So Miss McLeod graciously wore a clown nose all day today because her students all showed up at school today. So that's just one way we're trying at the K-3 level to help build positive relationships with attendance for our kids. Thanks, Mr. Peck, you nailed it. Another thing that we have at South Maple are our Blue Devil dollars. This is something that our school improvement team also felt like it needed revamping. This is a school-wide currency that students can earn. Every student can earn the cash. They can earn as many dollars as they can get their hands on, and it's all tied to positive behavior supports. So a student will get paid, and then at the end of the week, usually at the end of the week, the teacher will have some sort of classroom store where they can buy lunch with a buddy coupons, they can bring a stuffy to school, some way for them to buy into the school community. So these are brand new this year, and our students actually voted on the name. There was Big Blue Buckaroos or Blue Bucks, but they all decided that Blue Devil dollars was the right choice for the currency, and then it just has our South Maple expectations on it. So this is new and they're loving it. So that's what's going on in South Maple. Thank you.
Thank you. Celeste?
Alrighty. So you may hear some similar threads, right? When we talk about data, we talk about attendance, we talk about achievement. One of the things that we're doing at North Ohio to help address some of the positives as well as those challenges, obviously, that you saw in that data, we have our Communities and Schools person at North Ohio. It's a new program this year. I think we probably mentioned it last year, but we're doing a partnership. It's a person who was an employee previously, so she knows the students, has really positive relationships. What we've been doing to tackle some attendance challenges, attendance being full day attendance as well as tardies. We see lots and lots and lots, students coming in 45 minutes late, so they've missed that whole launch, right? Like, you know how it feels when you're running late. And so imagine being 5, and that's happening too frequently. One of the things that we've done is we're doing courtesy calls for families, not to call and lay out a punitive consequence, but rather to call, remind them of the times that we start, the times students can get dropped off, the fact that we have breakfast, everybody can enjoy breakfast. Teachers are making regular contacts with families as well, and so we're doing a lot of things to try and prevent those tardies and those absence days. And I think that the change in mindset from a negative to a more positive, having a personal conversation with somebody is helping. We're finding if a family might need some support. You had asked about medical. So if we're finding that we have a lot of students and maybe it's a family that is having a hard time and they're calling their students in for coughing, or the 3 kids had a cough, let's say, but really in that conversation we might find out that it's a transportation challenge, or we might find out that it's somebody's on a different shift. And so then we're working through those problems before they become significant attendance challenges, so we're trying to head them off. And that's one of the things that we've seen become a positive part of the year. We're also tracking behavior data. And as we continue to track that behavior data, because obviously we want the students there, we want them engaged, but we also want them learning along with their peers. One of the trends that we're noticing is the two kinds of behavior that we're seeing on a regular basis would be behavior that would be defined as disruption and defiance. And so we're doing a lot of brainstorming. What does that look like for a 5-year-old versus what does that look like for a 7-year-old? Teachers are working really hard. We're providing some in-classroom supports for those students. We're having regular communications with families. And then leading into that, we have, and Maple is part of this as well, we are doing, and this goes back to that original professional development that we had with the John Hattie, I guess, company, or however we referred to those folks, but we talked about student engagement and then really being explicit with the kids about what it looks like to be engaged. Just sitting there doesn't mean that you're engaged. And so teachers did this with their students last year. And we have different levels of it. So in kindergarten, where the teachers are very specific, they're talking to the kids every day about what it looks like, and we use the language about driving your learning, right? And so, disruption, and the kids talk about what does that look like, what does that sound like, what happens when there is a disruption in the classroom. And then we talk about participating. What does that look like when you're at the carpet? What does that look like when you have a seat work task? And so we start with the 2 levels for our kindergarten students. And we move by adding one into 3rd grade, because now we have avoidance in the middle there. And so sometimes we have students that might not be disrupting, but they're avoiding. So they might be avoiding their own learning. And then what does it look like for participating? And again, very explicit conversations happening in the classroom. 2nd grade, we move to a 4th one where we talk about disruptive, avoiding, participating, and then driving, right? So what am I really doing? They talk about start your engines and all sorts of things like that relate with the students. And then in 3rd grade, we really add to it with participating or disrupting, avoiding, withdrawing, and we see that, participating, investing, and then driving. And we talk every day, like I said, about that. And so those are some of the things that staff's being very explicit with kids on a regular basis to help them become engaged, more engaged in their education. And then you had mentioned cohorts. We look at that data with NWEA in particular. So if we were looking at 1st grade fall last year at this time, we would compare it to those 2nd grade students and where they are landing. And we've seen some pretty positive things. So for instance, so we're talking same cohort, our incoming 2nd graders, so they would be our last year's 1st graders. We had a 12% decrease in those that would have been considered at that 20th percentile and below. So those students that were having the greatest difficulty showing the things that they were learning, and so, or not learning. And so with that 12% decrease in that 20%, right, so we're shrinking that population. Those kids are growing and moving up, so that hopefully by the time they are in 3rd grade, right, we're seeing some dividends on those M-STEP scores. Reading NWEA for our incoming 2nd graders, so 1st grade was that population I pulled, showed a 6% decrease in that 20th percentile, which means then they're growing closer to proficiency. And one thing I wanted to share with you, I had read it prior to the board meeting, and I was very proud. Mr. Keck mentioned that we had the iReady PD training today, so we had a person from that company come into the building. She had sent me an email. She also mentioned what a lovely day she had and how engaged staff was. But part of her email to me was the energy and engagement were truly inspiring. Everyone, and she met with classroom teachers on grade level planning periods. Everyone brought positivity and a strong commitment to learning. It's clear that teachers recognize the importance. So I wanted to share that with you. I was proud of them, and I don't think there's a person in this room that would argue that teachers are really invested in all of these things too.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I feel like I could use those signs for my kids at home.
feel like I could use those for my kids at home.
You could probably get a copy.
Drawing.
So, all of us are collaborating together, so you'll hear some of the same trends. We've been really celebrating students at Gaylord Intermediate School. We have our big celebration assembly today. We have a student of the month who's sixth grader Erin Hughes. She's the daughter of Alex and Kristen Hughes, unanimously selected by the staff. We have our Blazing Blue Devils, which is a grade level representative. We have Edith Jutinen, El Wada, and Brielle Rausch, who are the grade level representatives. We do have a Crushing It Award, so there's which is 27, represented by 27 different students, every student from a class who just is crushing it every day. So we're really trying to focus on the positives, and like we're talking about, Dennis was talking about, getting kids to beat down the doors to get in. What we are also doing an attend dance, fourth, fifth, and sixth graders love the dance party, which is a dance party, not like a slow dance. But we have over 315 students right now with perfect attendance in week 7. So we pulled that on Friday, so that's great. And I think part of that is explaining expectations, rumbling through some difficult times with families, but once they understand the importance, and we don't want kids to come to school sick, we just want them to be a little more cautious when they're taking days off. So I do think that's gonna make a huge difference. We're also doing lots of positive, rocking it at GIS. We have the Golden Pitchfork Award, the grade level that's really doing amazing in the cafeteria, which is 4th grade. The Right Way, which is in honor of Stacy Wright. Mr. Nowak won the staff award this month. We celebrated him at the assembly. The Litter Legend, we had a 6th grader who is picking up the school and making the school look beautiful, right? Like really taking pride in that school pride, focusing on those positives. We talked about the Crushing It, the Student of the Month. Always Here, Always Awesome is our our attendance award. The Blazing Blue Devil is the monthly award. The Rockin' Recess Award went to 6th grade. And then we also have the P2 points. It's part of our positivity project. Like we did random drawings for kids making amazing choices. And then our Hallway Hero is a class that makes great choices in the hallway. Really just celebrating those positive pieces. And to go back to the data, our big goal, our first step that GIS is working on is looking at the structure of the schedule. Like, do we have 90 minutes of uninterrupted instruction where our teachers can teach and that kids aren't getting pulled out? So we restructured the schedule, which has been, I don't want to say it's been a challenge, but it's something new, so it's been a change. But our staff are really appreciating that we're taking that making sure that time is protected so that our teachers can teach. And I think when we start at that basic level and as we start mastering those, we'll keep going up and drilling down to make sure that we continue to improve through instructional leadership. So Sarah and I are really focusing on instructional practices, having lots of one-on-ones with staff to talk about like, what do you need? Like, what do your students need? And so we really feel like we have a positive momentum going, and we're really excited to see what the data will show in the spring. And our correlation data, Rachel, you asked about, so like in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, it's the NWEA data needs to be somewhere between the 59th percentile and the 64th percentile. If you're there, you are projected to pass the M step. And so really we're saying like, okay, where are those bubble kids and who are they? Because you can really move the needle on 5 or 6 kids. And if that's per grade level when you do the percentages, so if we're really intentional, like what strategies they need through that NWEA, we're confident that we're gonna see some big gains that correlate to that M-STEP data too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Carla.
Yes. Oh, sorry. No, just showing you my bleachers.
All right. So we got some awesome things going on at the middle school. I've been really trying to focus on continuing and building upon our positive culture that we have at the middle school. So we've been bringing some things in. We did a little bit of restructuring of our student council. We had a school-wide election, and our student council is now 18 members, 8 7th graders, 10 8th graders. And they're gonna be working together on some big school-wide projects to help build that culture around our school. We're beginning our planning on our Veterans Day Assembly, which is a huge, you guys know it's a huge event for us, and it really brings the community and our building together. We're doing a middle school dance on October 24th. And then something I brought in this year is Student of the Month, so very similar to GIS. We have teachers nominate students for a theme. So every month has a theme that correlates with Positivity Project. September's theme was teamwork. So it's students that can demonstrate they work well with others in groups and a team, but they're loyal, they're consistent, and they will do anything to help others succeed as well. And then the staff votes amongst those that were nominated, and those students are Kennedy Smith, Weston Bolter, Lydia Bello, and Nolan Keck for this month. And we got t-shirts made, so they get t-shirts. You guys probably saw the post on the Facebook page. It's pretty cool. But also, I wanted to build some of that culture within our staff too. So we do September Teacher of the Month, where Dave, my assistant principal, and I, we select a teacher just to honor them, and then we get students to say some things about them. So our Teacher of the Month was Mrs. Leanne Faulkner, and here's what some kids had to say about Mrs. Faulkner. So Bronson Taylor said she's very calming and understanding. Kinley Abraham said, I like that Mrs. Faulkner's room is calming and chill. I also like that we have fun, but we also stay on task and get work done. Another thing is that she will help you and show you an example of what to do, how to do it, and what you can do better. Zoe Smith said, Mrs. Faulkner's room is very calming to me, and she makes me feel very comfortable. I love her soft voice and the way she explains things. I've yet to not understand something that she teaches, and she makes all kids listen somehow in the kindest way ever. I'm not sure how she does it. As far as the data, we're really proud of our middle school data. As you guys saw in the graphs, we tend to do very well in comparison to the state. But I think that there's still room for some growth. In those areas, we seem to be just above 50% proficiency in a lot of our areas like ELA and math and science and social studies. But one area that I want to highlight this year is an area where I think we can show significant growth is in our math. Especially 7th grade math, where we found that 58% of our students did not meet proficiency. So we are bringing in some things that I think will help with that. Previously, what we would do is during our seminar time, we would spend a couple days a week during seminar doing Khan Academy for math, which is, it's a great program, and they would start at like a lower level and just work their way through the curriculum and build those fundamental skills as they go on. But there's really not like a designated start and end point for kids. So for some students, it'd be really easy at the beginning, and then they finally get to the challenging stuff. And it doesn't really have a system of meeting kids where they're at. So what we decided to do is transition to using a program called IXL. And so what we can do with IXL is we can use, it links to their NWEA scores. So now that enrichment that they're getting from math is linked to their NWEA, so it meets those students where they're at and gives them the skills that are specific to where their deficiencies are and helps them build from there, which is huge. Another thing that I was working with our math department on is focusing on mathematical reasoning, which was kind of a weak point in our data. So we're emphasizing students' ability to justify and explain their thinking in addition to just solving the problems, and working that into our daily math curriculum. Doing daily word problems is something we're going to start implementing because it's one thing to solve an equation, but then it changes sort of the dynamic of how we think about those problems when they become word problems. And then doing more error analysis mini lessons. So taking a problem that is incorrectly solved and breaking that apart and saying, well, why is this incorrectly solved and what's the reason for that? So we're really kind of honing in on that piece because I think that's an area where we can see the most exponential growth. Some other things I just want to highlight too really quick. We're doing our High Five program, which when a student does something extremely positive or goes above and beyond, they get a little slip. It goes in a box and we raffle those off on Fridays and they get a prize. Another thing is kind of in correlation to attendance. I was really interested this year also in not just how many kids are coming to school, but how many minutes students are spending outside of class while they're at school. So what I developed for our students is a hall pass Google form. So whenever a student takes a hall pass, they have to fill out the Google form, and it tracks what class they're in, what time they're leaving that class, and then timestamps when they return to class. So I can track how long they're out of class for, because we know, especially towards the end of the day, the kids get mental fatigue and they're like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. And then they take maybe a little break. Well, here's what I think is the positive byproduct of that. If I track our averages of time students spent out of class, it's under 5 minutes. And a median, it's under 4 minutes. And so I think what has happened is kids are now more conscious, knowing, oh, someone's actually keeping track of where I'm going and how long I'm spending. I better get back to class and focus on what I'm doing. So I feel that we've actually been able to cut down on how much time kids are spending out of class while they're in school as well. And I can speak from experience, like it is a bit of a ghost town when we walk through the hallways between classes, which I think has been a huge positive. So not only trying to get kids to school, but in class while they're in school and staying in class so they can get as much out of those lessons, uninterrupted instruction as possible. So yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to thank the middle school for exploring that hall pass, because we're going to be soon implementing that at the high school. We've been sitting there thinking of different ways that high schoolers can take advantage of it. So we've kind of sorted all that out, and it's working well for him, so we hope to be bringing that to the high school in the near future. When that is going to happen, we're not sure yet, because we've got a couple other issues that we want to address first. But so I just got a few things. The first one is just kind of recapping homecoming. Homecoming's a pretty good culminating activity for our high school. It brings in our alumni. We have a very successful band and football program right now. And if you were at the homecoming game 2 weeks ago, when you are undefeated and have a good halftime show and it's 82 degrees outside, you have a lot of people that show up. And so Mr. Cowper estimated there's probably roughly 5,000 people at the event. So a little boulder right here, but we're good. And it went very well. And I think it's a testament to our students and to our staff. So our student council advisor kind of stepped down right at the beginning of the school year, which put us in a little bit of a jam. So our administrative team, specifically Brooke and Rachel, really stepped up and became student council advisors for the first time. They like it so much they're thinking about doing snow coming now, right? So that's good, because if you would have asked them the day of the game, probably not. But they're already eager for another dance, so that's huge. But everything that we did for homecoming was where can we tie it into attendance? Where can we tie it into a number of those things? So I'm going to kind of hit two things with you. At our homecoming assembly, we focused mainly on sportsmanship. Mr. Cowper gave a very quality end of the pep assembly speech to remind how we conduct ourselves as Blue Devils on and off the field. And I think that paid dividends at the game. We did have an incident where we did have a few Alpena kids that wanted to visit our section. You can imagine teenagers could provide some very good insight as to why they didn't want them there. That didn't happen. They were upset, but we didn't hear any swearing, we didn't hear any booing, we just, I was there, and the kids left, and there was no taunting when they left. So it worked out really, really well. And when you have a game that was as lopsided as was, it's very easy for folks to speak negatively about a big win, and that didn't happen. And I'd say even after the game, when our students congregate and support our players and cheerleaders and the band, all of them are extremely respectful. More importantly, they listen to all of our expectations. And so with 5,000 people there, it was amazing. Also, we were able to celebrate attendance at the homecoming assembly, which was even better. On count day, which was Wednesday of homecoming, any student that showed up on time for the 7 hours that we offer were given a raffle ticket. We then were able to, and we had a huge old bucket of the raffle tickets, and so we raffled off 7 different pieces of Blue Devil swag and a gift card to eat somewhere for students that showed up to class on time. So it's just a small celebration there, but more importantly, we were able to acknowledge 2 students that had perfect attendance for the year so far, and each one of them received a $100 gift card. More importantly, and this is kind of a side story, one of the parents called and they're like, why does everybody know my kid's name at the football game? What's going on? Right? And it was because of the attendance. It was nothing other than the fact that we honored this kid who's shown up every single day for school and had perfect attendance. And there was more applause and chanting of names for the good attendance just as much as in a game or in a band performance. So right there, some of the things that we're doing are huge. So.
Could you share that student's name with us?
Oh God, Nora Fox, thank goodness. And then Slough was the other young man that was drawn in the name. But Nora Fox was the one that, she's always had really good attendance and a smile on her face. So it was awesome that we were able to, draw her of one of our, really good attendance folks, because it's just honoring something that she's doing behind the scenes and just doing it right every day. So that was huge. So that's our big attendance piece. And then the last piece, just tying with, the SAT and everything else. ARC is something that we introduced this year that's new, and with new creates a lot of concerns. But when we're looking at the financial impacts of just lower student enrollment and the challenges of some of our grant funding to support students is drying up, we have to get more creative in the day-to-day school operations. And so ARC was something where if we took 3 or 4 minutes of class instruction from each hour, it then creates 30 minutes of where we can intervene and support. And so we're kind of building this as it goes because of student need. So we have a nice shell and structure now, and we're just building on that every single day. So some of the things that we've been able to do since our inception is we've now identified basically 3 types of ARC students. So ARC student 1 would be what we would call a tier 3 intervention, in the fact that they are credit deficient, and not only are they credit deficient, they failed classes at 49% or less. Right, so they probably worked harder to fail than they did to pass and succeed. Some of that is attendance driven, some of that's a number of things. But by ARC, we can now assign them kind of a credit recovery program and an online program where they take the entire course again. The best part is now, instead of sending them home on their own to do the E2020, we have them tied to teachers of that particular subject area. So if I'm retaking math, our attempt is to put them in an ARC class with a math teacher. Doesn't matter the math subject in which they teach, we know that they can help them with math questions. And we're doing the same thing for ELA, science, and all those. So that's addressing roughly 61 kids in our entire school that fall into that category. So that's 7% of our population are receiving that support, okay? In the second part of ARC, our second tiered students are what we would call, they almost made it, right? For whatever reason, they missed passing by like 8%. Okay, that's a small number. To have someone retake an entire class, we're not getting a whole lot of, response to the intervention. So can we identify some content standards that each of our subject matters feel is the most important, the foundational piece? So like if I failed algebra, what would be the 3 content standards that it doesn't matter on what profession or what they end up doing leaving school, what are these 3 foundational math skills that would be the most beneficial for them down the road, okay? And that could be as simple as, negative and positive integers and working with them, or fractions, all these different things. So our math department is identifying those pieces. That's going to represent about 25 of our students across all subjects. So that's 3% are receiving that intervention. And our hopes is those students that missed by only 8% of passing that class, we're able to get them that support, able to get them those foundational skills, but more importantly, we get them back to passing that class, or they're now, back on track to be able to graduate. So that's huge. And then our third group, which is a majority of our student population, is just the standard intervention. I was gone for a day, I need to make up a test. I've got a ski meet, I'm gone all day. I can come in the following week and I can take that test, because what we're finding is a majority of our students, we offer supports and test recovery, but they don't have the ability to sometimes do that outside of the school day. So to come in earlier or to stay after because of sports, work, family dynamics, however it is. So we now have a spot inside school during their school day that they can control and get those supports. So that's kind of where we're doing it from the recovery side, but also with the SAT coming, our plan is to create our art classes as almost little SAT boot camps, if you will. So we're looking at targeting 3 to 6 weeks of helping all students get ready for either the PSAT or SAT. And so what that looks like is the beginning parts is going to be just looking at test dynamics, looking at vocabulary, what are the specific words that SAT uses regularly, so students become common with that vocabulary, so they can kind of start to eliminate and be able to answer questions better, okay? The other component of that is that second phase in our ARC SAT bootcamp that we're going to do later on in the year is also going to be what we call item analysis and test breakdown. We know that there's about 4 or 5 different types of thinking strategies that go in a high stakes test. And we know that certain questions are designed to be a knowledge-based question followed by a very application-based question. So it's 2 different types of thinking. So helping students be able to navigate that type of thinking would be the second phase of our boot camp. And then the third phase of our boot camp is just utilizing sample questions that are already out there and having kids practice them, and then tying it to the particular subject in which arc that they're in. So if I'm a math teacher, I'm doing some math practice. But the more important thing is these ARC teachers are gaining resources with samples. They can then give that to their colleagues. So we can use that in the regular classroom for anticipatory sets as well. So it's just morphing and evolving as we go. And I think that will help boost our test scores even more. Get those kids that are just on the edge, just over the edge. So that's what I got. Sorry, that was long, but hey, everybody was doing it, so I thought it was fun. All right. Lot going on.
Thank you.
Try not to be quite as long. And the first one is not going to talk about curriculum or we have had a great start to the year. Everything's been pretty smooth. I'm very, very happy with that. I've got a pretty amazing team of people that I'm working with right now. The culture and all of our operations and all the kitchens and everywhere has just been pretty phenomenal so far this year. So that's pretty encouraging. Just about fully staffed. Down maybe one person. I've had some amazing subs. Some of our retired people have come back and been working with us pretty much nonstop for the entire year so far. But yeah, everything's been going really well. I'm sure you saw in the budget too, Michigan school meals did pass. We were going to stay and remain free for all kids regardless of this, but it's very great news that it did go through. For this year I advocated quite a bit for that over time. Brought it down to Lansing a couple times and doing some stuff there. So things that have gone on in our kitchens, I've refreshed a couple of spaces. I found when I first got started that we have in both our elementaries and at GIS, our salad bars where kids are going and getting their fresh fruits, veggies, and things like that. We're beyond our registers where they really shouldn't be. Everything kind of has to be before our point of sale. So I took the opportunity to restructure, at least at GIS, quite a bit. Moved a whole bunch of stuff around, moved those things back before our registers. So now, because what was happening, and not a bad thing, but what we were doing in the past was we were serving, a fruit and or a vegetable in the line as the kids were coming through. I've now removed a lot of that, unless it's something needed, for the meal specifically. I've moved a lot of that beyond, so now the kids have choice. And we're seeing quite a huge uptick in not just acceptance, but participation of kids taking fruits, vegetables, things like that, fresh stuff that they really do need. Instead of just getting a couple things, now their plates are really, nice and full. So pretty exciting there. Where do we have? And and throughout too, I've also made quite a few changes, and those will be ongoing as we go through. I'm just kind of trying to start slow and move things, but some menu changes, throughout in each building, just new and different items that are very well. The acceptability has been pretty great for the kids. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from students, staff, even some parents. Things have called in, so that's pretty encouraging there. Our participation is up about right now. Well, breakfast is about even where we've been last year, but lunch is up about 6%. I'm looking at currently year to date over last year. So that's a good sign, and I anticipate that kind of climbing as we go out through the year. So a couple of upcoming things that will be going into place. I had applied earlier in the year for the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. It's a federal grant, and I applied for about $105,000 originally within the grant that was going to target all of our schools, K through 6. We were only awarded funds for GIS, and that's not anything to do. It's the criteria is the same across the board for everything that we applied for. It's just a numbers game with the state and where they can apply those federal dollars. So. That program is we're working out the details right now, and that's going to be going into effect at GIS, hopefully in November is my goal. The grant runs through September 30th of next year, so we'll have a lot of time to do. And what that is, essentially, that will allow us to, outside of the breakfast and lunch hours, serve a fresh fruit or vegetable, very minimally processed, mostly just nothing cooked or anything like that, to the students to try to expose them to various new products, things they have had, things they're accustomed to, and other things that they haven't had. watermelon radishes, other kind of fun, crazy things that are out there, just to get them to try. It'll be, you know, along with the samples they'll all get, there's gonna be a lot of information that will be given to them, so they can learn a little bit about it, yeah. Kind of exciting. One thing that we also applied for and has not gone through because it did not fall into the budget was the 10 cents a meal grant for Michigan Kids and Farms. It's a matching grant, and I know right now they're looking to see if there's ways they could fund that. But I'll talk to, you know, my friends at MDA and see kind of where we're at here in the near future. But I'd like to, that's just allows, it basically have all the fresh stuff that we're buying, as long as it's Michigan grown, the state will pick up half the tab on that, so. But we'll see, you know, where that ends up, because that did not land in the budget. Other things that are gonna be coming up, just planning on doing some tastings, you know, throughout all the different schools, whether it's me just setting up, you know, tables in the cafes at lunchtime, or having, you know, setting something up during the day and maybe having groups come to me throughout the day. Any questions you guys have?
No, sounds like a lot of good things.
Yeah, lots of good stuff happening, lots of good stuff to come, so I'll keep you posted as we go.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Mr. Weaver, do you want this here, or do you want this back over?
Over there, if you would, please. Just as a reminder, at this meeting, we have two public inputs, so if you want to speak at this one, you're welcome to. If you'd like to wait till the second one, you're also welcome to do that. You have 3 minutes, and we will not respond back immediately in this meeting, but somebody will get back with you if you have a question or concern. So first up will be Stephanie Jacobson.
Hi, everybody. I took a little summer break too, but I'm glad to be back. Just a couple of things. It's very interesting to me. I actually don't let my kids take the M-STEP or the NWEA. I didn't like either. I have some massive concerns with the data collection by these huge consortia and where it goes. And I also have concerns with the socio-emotional aspect of that testing, specifically the NWEA. And so, unfortunately, when the state adopted this, I was actually there at those hearings along with the Common Core standards, and unfortunately, the teachers' unions and the teachers present said, this is what we want, and this is what we need, and so, you know, the politicians were all too happy to do that for the dollars, and that's why we ended up where we are. If it were up to me, I'd go back about 100 years, and I'd look at what kids needed to learn after every grade. Maybe Laura Ingalls Wilder, she talks about her end of the year assessments. I do something like that. The one thing I am a little curious about is data indicates that if you can't do your basics by end of 3rd grade, it does not help you academically moving forward. You tend to be a struggler. And so I kind of have to wonder if you have to follow a certain group. So I feel like comparing the 8th graders now to the 3rd graders now, it would be more appropriate to see where those 8th graders were in 3rd grade. They might have been a higher performing grade. So I think that's definitely a concern. College professors are also saying students aren't prepared to do basic reading, writing, and math, college level math. And that was always a criticism when we adopted the Common Core. I'd just like to draw your attention to Mississippi. They've made huge strides. They're now, I think, cracked the top 10 in the nation as far as academic performance, while Michigan is circling the bottom, despite spending. And I do think, to Dennis's point, that the tutoring program seemed to be producing some gains. I'm actually glad that it's not a line item. I actually prefer when they give schools money and allow them to spend it on the things they think is important rather than what Lansing and the consultants and the special interests think is important. So I would encourage you with your increase this year to maybe look at possibly funding that. And then finally, there's a growing body of research that writing greatly improves student learning. And I am a little concerned with the amount of technology we have in front of the children all day long. Actually, there was just a fascinating thing on in NPR, so not a biased source, everybody, about the physical act of writing and how it's one of the most challenging things a brain can do. And there's a growing body of research that tech does not improve student achievement. So if I could say one thing, and it will cost you no money, I'd get those young kids off the computers and back
Thank you.
writing, math, and English.
Thank
I
you.
think that would really help. Thank you.
All right, next up is Susan Lubert.
Can I do it from here, okay?
If we'd prefer up here, please.
Yeah. Try not to trip over everybody.
Take your time.
Hate to go in front of the camera, but. Yeah, what I want to speak on is the State Board of Education has got a new health framework that they want to propose. And it is very drastic. And what it is I'm encouraging you to not pass it, to do what you can to vote against it, to not pass it. I'll give you background on it. In the fall of 2024, the Radical Sex Ed Overhaul Bill, which is known as HB 6068, was introduced and defeated. Now the Michigan State Board of Education is trying to incorporate many of the same radical ideas about sex and identity into health curriculum for the K through 12 grade public schools. This proposal bypasses the legislative process and usurps the role of parents by hiding radical immoral teachings about sex and identity in a curriculum that parents can't opt out or approve. Through these new health standards, children will be be forced to be indoctrinated with values that directly contradict the sincere held religious beliefs of their families. Instead of continuing with the positive proven success of our current health education standards, the sex ed law, which is MCL 38.1507, that protects the role of parents. These standards proposed are that the government knows more than the parents do, and they will be far beyond the statutory role of the public schools in cooperating with the pupils' parents and legal guardians to develop the pupils' intellectual capabilities and vocational skills, which is MC 38.10. It will also violate, according to the U.S. Supreme Court ruling, and it says that the government burdens the religious exercise of parents when it requires them to subject their children to instruction that poses a very real threat of undermining the religious beliefs and practices that the parents should wish to instill. And that goes against the religious values for the Christian, the Jewish, Muslim, and other religious families. And it also goes against Article, in our Constitution, Article 8, Section 1, religion, morality, and knowledge being necessary to good government and the happiness of mankind, schools of the means of education shall forever be encouraged. These standards ought to be redrafted so that they focus only on academics and public physical health, not sexual and reproductive health. Alternately, we could keep our current standards and allow parents of the local sex ed advisory committees to continue operating, instead of having the sex ed class be incorporated in the health education, which means they have no rights to it.
Thank you. All right, that is all the public input that I have. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have board minutes from October 7th, 2025, and then we have treasurer's report, general fund and athletic fund bills in the amount of $3.1 million, cafeteria fund bills in the amount of $106,000, sinking fund bills in the amount of $171,000, and 0 prior period adjustment amounts. That is all of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Okay.
Rachel?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
All right, new and unfinished business. Therapy animal policy. It is recommended the board approve the therapy animal policy as presented. So, we'll need a first and a second on this.
I will approve, I'll make a motion to approve the policy for the therapy dog as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions on therapy animal policy?
I had some thoughts. I talked to Jeff today about this. Katie, you missed the committee of the whole, but we talked about it. And one of the things I did not totally understand when we were talking about it was the difference between the therapy dog and the emotional support dog. So now that I understand that, I have a better idea of how this would be implemented. My only question was, the guidelines don't, and I don't know if you got more information about this, but it doesn't limit it to just the staff requesting it. So is that what you envision?
The guideline right now, I believe, does employee in the guidelines. And so I think what was discussed is, did you want to go employee and/or designate I kept it an employee?
So the employee is the only one requesting this, not students requesting?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you, in implementation of this, is the idea that it would just be like one-on-one, or would it be a classroom setting?
It could be either. It would depend upon the situation. So you're right, it could be either. My recommendation, I guess my practice in this is if you were to approve that policy, would be real cautious in the initial implementation. And take a look, I can tell you, I did call one school that has therapy dogs. And they've had it since 2016, and that's how they launched. I mean, real small at the beginning, and now they're part of their everyday school. They just had pretty positive experiences with it. So that would be my approach, to be cautious at the beginning and see how it works.
Okay, Rachel, you, questions all answered? As best as you can.
Yeah, I guess, I see the benefit of it. The one thing that, if they're coming into the classroom, one of the things that it says in here is that the school nurse is involved in identifying kids with allergies. And then in that setting, are kids with allergies potentially being removed from the classroom to accommodate the therapy dog? So those kids are potentially missing out on the lesson?
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to supplant any teaching like that. So, yeah, I mean, if that was a situation where you're moving a student, yeah, I would not be in favor of that particular situation. So we wanted to enhance it. And keep in mind what you're voting on is specifically the policy.
Right.
So guidelines are things that, we can change, we can look at, we can evolve. As a board, as you look at the implementation of this, and, if you were to decide to it, we can report back, and, like how it's being implemented, you can pull the policy, or you can take a look at the guidelines. I mean, I have, even though guidelines are not approved by the board, they certainly are ran by the board. So anytime there's a change in guidelines, I have an obligation to present that to the board and let you go to that. And if you didn't like that change, you could pull the policy.
Okay. Anybody else?
I know that therapy dogs, they're therapy animals, there's definitely so many benefits to them, but yeah, from the 30,000-foot view, there's all those questions. And I guess my concern's more than the allergy kids, the kids who are scared of dogs. So, but I know that's not, I'm supposed to be up here, I'm not supposed to be in that, but that's what, I'm looking at all, from up here, I'm looking at all these little things, but I know the benefits, and I can envision the kids, that will benefit from this. But yeah, so it's all those little things, like the kid who's scared of the dog. I don't want a kid going into a panic because there's golden retriever over there, because that's what I assume it's gonna be as a dog, like a golden retriever, so, but yeah, I guess that's my only.
Yeah, I'd say, I guess my thought is if we don't ever try it, we'll never know.
Yeah.
And if we have one bad, like Brian said, one bad thing, we can easily take that out, and we also have to trust the people that we've put in place, whether it's a principal or the superintendent, that if he says yes, we get to the school, and all of a sudden that principal in that school notices that there's a problem, then that can be that principal is going to pull that animal out of there right away. We're by no means would we ever put a student in danger of anything, so. That's my thought.
I have reservations, but like you said, I mean, I guess we have to try it.
I know, we just started having them at the hospital in the, I'll say early spring, March. And I definitely had my reservations, especially in the emergency department. It's loud, there's lots of different smells, there's lots of different sounds. I was very hesitant, I was kind of a naysayer, and we developed a process so that when there's an animal there, you know, a dog, we're doing dogs, that they call and ask if they can come through and that, and I would say that the staff have benefited from it more than the patients have. Because the patients aren't typically there very long, but it is a huge staff satisfier. They love seeing the dogs. It's, we haven't had any issues with anybody being allergic or not liking dogs or being afraid. Obviously, this is adults, but, if patients see the dog, they ask to see them, and so we allow that, but, so far, it's been a good experience at the hospital.
One of the guidelines I actually wanted to ask you about was it says if, it will never happen, but if someone gets bit, they're supposed to call the health department, but in the ER, don't you guys call the animal control first? Isn't that the first call, is animal
So we
control?
notify them.
Okay.
So we
all
make
right.
notification and contact with them
Okay.
that we've had a dog bite, and then they follow up on it. It may or may not be done immediately. It might
Okay.
be done for 2 days, depending on what they have going on, if it's a holiday, if it's a
Yeah,
weekend,
okay.
if it's at midnight.
So should we put that in our guidelines that we notify the health, or the animal control also? Just, I don't know, I just thought that was always part of it, but,
That makes sense.
yeah. So,
Okay. So if we do approve it, we'll add in the animal control. Anybody else? Okay.
Rachel,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Payroll and benefits specialist. It is recommended the board approve the individual contract for payroll and benefits specialist as presented.
I will make a motion to approve the payroll and benefits specialist as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions on? Okay.
Rachel,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Is Donna here?
She is not.
She not, okay. All right. Gaylord Community Schools Superintendent Selection Criteria. It is recommended the board approve the Gaylord Community Schools Superintendent Selection Criteria as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the Gaylord Community Schools Superintendent Selection Criteria as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions on those? Okay,
Rachel,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeff.
yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, and we are moving forward with our selection. Some of the staff and community may have gotten or may get information from our selection personnel. We'd hope that you'd fill that out so we know what the community's looking for. Do we have any new staff to introduce?
We do not.
We do not? All right.
Anybody wants to work in food service?
We're just hiring on the spot.
We have completed all of our public input, so we need one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for all the information, and thank you for the administrators' hard work.
Yes, thank you.